Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of this F1 25 Joshua Pearce career mode. This is part 14 of the series. If you did miss the last episode, it was an absolute dominant performance from ourselves. Not only did we win the sprint race in Belgium, but we won the Belgian Grand Prix. It was a great strategy from the team, and also the car was just on absolute rails. It felt amazing around there, and the upgrades that we did get before that round absolutely proved to be worth it. Max Verstappen and Lando Norris were also up in the podium with ourselves, and as we head into this round, Max Verstappen leads the championship by 78 points to Lando Norris. Then it's Lewis Hamilton in third, 142 points behind. Myself in fourth, only 2 points behind Hamilton. Hayes in ninth, he's 67 points behind Charles Leclerc, and for the constructors, Red Bull leads the way by 70 points to McLaren. Then it's Ferrari in third, 151 points behind Apex GP, where he sit fourth, 69 points behind Ferrari. And we're going to jump straight into some aerodynamics for a minor drag reduction upgrade with some new front wing end plates, and by rushing this part, it's going to be in the car before the Dutch Grand Prix, hopefully. So yeah, we're just going to rush this one since it does have a lower failure rate. And as we take a look now, we do have another secret meeting to attend. Previously, we have declined Sauber and Haas, both Ferrari power units. I kind of want to keep our allegiance to Mercedes since we are currently running Mercedes, and so let's jump straight into it. And it's going to be Alpine, and they are the next team interested in our services. And this is actually going to be an interesting one because next season they will be switching to a Mercedes power unit. They're scrapping the Renault power engine, and they could be a shot. They could definitely be a shot. We would have to take a look at what their performances are like. So far all we can see is the team performances. Alpine so far have actually done really well. Gasly has picked up a podium in Australia, but that was overshadowed by the win that Jack Doohan got in his first, let's say, full-time Grand Prix start. He did do that one race in Abu Dhabi in 2024. They currently sit in P6 in the Constructors, where we currently sit fourth, knocking on the door of Ferrari of all teams, and we have picked up 2 wins this season, and Hayes has got a very close to a podium with a 4th in Monaco. So I'm actually just, even though they're going to be running the Mercedes next season, I am going to decline any further talks because they're currently on the downhill. They had that one very good blip in Australia, but that was just a very chaotic race. So we're going to decline them. And this should also boost our recognition as well.
The team are delighted you've been so loyal, declining all these meetings. They wanted me to tell you that they see you as key to the team going forward. Just don't get too comfy, otherwise I'll be out of a job.
So the team is very, very pleased that we've declined a third team for further talks. So plenty of brownie points in that department. And we're going to take a look at the upgrades that we've got this weekend. And there's only going to be one, which is a rear downforce upgrade, which should help a lot, especially at the track nicknamed Monaco without the walls. So hopefully this can help us with a good result around the Hungarian ring. And this weekend is looking overcast with a small threat of rain, but hopefully will stay dry during the course of the weekend. So far, rain has not been our friend. And with the aero upgrade on the car, we have now gone back to the fastest car on the grid ahead of the McLaren. So we've had an absolutely insane R&D process so far this season, going from absolute bottom of the field to now fastest in less than half a season is absolutely insane. Mercedes now also jump in front of Red Bull, with Ferrari not bringing in any upgrades to stretch out the top 5 just a little bit. Aston Martin makes some good ground, nearly closing the gap to Ferrari, with Sauber jumping all the way up to Williams, now ahead of the Haas, Racing Bulls, and the Alpine, who are the slowest team at the moment, make me feel very glad that we declined any future talks as we now head straight into qualifying.
No pit stops, no strategy, it's all about the pace today. Qualifying day here at the Hungaroring for the Hungarian Grand Prix.
So now this is going to be another qualifying session that's going to be extremely important this season. The Hungarian Grand Prix, typically very difficult to overtake. Not as difficult as Monaco, but we do have the DRS straight that does make it quite good to pass into the first corner of this circuit. We will finish off our first lap here in the first part of qualifying. It's a purple first and 2 green sectors to follow up with. Oscar Piastri, he'll be fastest in qualifying 1 by 700ths of a second to his teammate Lando Norris, making it a McLaren 1-2 in this first part of qualifying. Verstappen lines up in third, a 10th behind myself in P6. We're 3/10 behind, and our teammate Sonny Hayes, he makes it through in P9, half a second behind, and knocked out in the qualifying ones. Jack Doohan, Fernando Alonso, Gabriel Bortoleto, Esteban Ocon, Liam Lawson, and Oliver Behrman failing to make it to this next part of qualifying. and we'll go to the end of our next flying lap a little bit wide through the last corner there. You see a lot of mid-corner understeer, but we'll continue on with the laps. 3 green sectors now put us into P5, and I was looking at the MFD scroll, like the little screen here in the middle, and I don't know if you quickly saw that there, but it was actually raining, and you can see it raining in the background there on these timing signs here. So I actually didn't go out for another lap thinking that it would start getting a little bit too wet for people to improve on. But Sonny Hayes, our teammate, is fastest in qualifying too, and knocked out in this second part is Oscar Piastri in the McLaren, and this makes his Sunday much more difficult considering that this track is typically harder to overtake on. Alex Albon, Isaac Hadjar, Nico Hulkenberg, Lance Stroll and Carlos Sainz makes it both Williams knocked out of this part of qualifying as well. So a big name to not make it to this final part here today in Hungary. And you see now, it is definitely wet. I am struggling all over the place on these slicks, but take note, top left of the screen, Pierre Gasly on the intermediates, everyone else going faster. I'm going to also imagine it on the intermediate tyres. So have I gone out to try and get a run done on the soft tyres before it got too wet? Is this actually going to shoot me in the foot? Because if I'm going to continue on with this lap just to see what the pace is like, because it's 2 green sectors, so I never know if these could actually be, you know, half competitive times. So I'm going to keep going with it, but it definitely feels like the intermediates probably would be the faster tyre to be on. The DRS is still activated. We go P10, quite some margin off, and even on the intermediates, the track is now degraded so far with all the water sitting on it now that even with the intermediates, I can only go about 2/10 faster. I kind of didn't really gain too much in the first or the third sector, but the middle sector was definitely a bit of time to make up there. Yuki Tsunoda, though, he's going to be on pole position for the Hungarian Grand Prix, ahead of Lewis Hamilton by a 10th of a second. Max Verstappen is in third. He missed out on a front row start by only 7/1000ths of a second. Our teammate Sonny Hayes in 6th position, 6/10 behind, and disappointing for myself to be P10 after trying to use the dries, but it was already too wet for us to set a competitive lap time, but we'll reset and head straight to the Grand Prix.
Welcome to Budapest once again for another round of Formula One action. Historically, a good race for first-time victories, with Button, Hill, Alonso and Heikki Kovalainen all reaching the top step of the podium for the very first time right here. We're northeast of Budapest for today's race at the 2.7-mile Hungaroring circuit. 14 corners here, 8 to the right and 6 to the left, on a track where downforce is king and passing is notoriously difficult. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Yuki Tsunoda lines up on pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Leclerc, George Russell and Hayes, Antonelli, Norris, Gasly, Pearce, Piastri, Hadjar, Nico Hulkenberg and Stroll, Sainz, Doohan, Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon, Lawson, Behrman, Albon and Gabriel Bortoleto rounds off the grid. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. Alongside me here in the commentary box today, former racing driver extraordinaire Naomi Schiff. Now, I'll be generous here. It's not that long ago that you were racing and entertaining us on a Sunday. But in the years since, the sport has changed quite a bit, hasn't it?
It is certainly an interesting time in this set of regulations because, as you know, when a new set of regulations come out, everything changes and you always wonder who's got it right. Well, we know that Red Bull are the ones who really got it right the last couple of years. But now you can see the rest of the grid slowly start to catch up, and there's really only so much left for Red Bull to get out of these regulations. So it is interesting, and the pack are catching up.
Okay, radio check, radio check. Right, this track needs a lot of downforce, so we won't have as much top speed. The good news, though, is that it's going to make our DRS even more effective than normal. Try to make the most of it in the race and quali if you can.
Couple of little bits of advice there from Mark, our race engineer, and taking a look at the strategy here, to try and get track position since we're starting so far down, we'll actually go for the one stop and starting on the mediums to lap 16 and then to the hards. to the end of the Grand Prix as we get ready for the start here in Hungary, and it's lights out and we're off. It's a really good start compared to Pierre Gasly, who's on those hard compound tyres. We're also going to get a little bit of a run on Kimi Antonelli. He swings it in front of us, so we'll swing it the other way, and there's a lot of open space around here, so we go to the outside of Lando Norris. Are we going to be able to make this move stick? He stays side by side with us. We get a little bit of wheel spin on the exit there. We're going to use a bit of battery to try and stay side by side, but this will give us the inside line now. And we're tucked up behind George Russell. Our teammate Sonny Hayes is up in P5 now. He's gained a position. We try and squeeze Norris out there on the exit. We're all over the exit curb, but we'll hold onto that P7 now. So already up a couple of positions here from our starting position, just from getting a good start and finding the open space going into turn 1. Nico Hulkenberg currently rounds out the final points paying position as we close out lap 1 to lap 3 now. Our teammate Sonny Hayes is looking to make his way up further through the field, and there's a little bit of contact there with Charles Leclerc through the braking zone, but he'll get the position. That puts him now up into P4, so a brilliant start for our teammate. And further behind us, Pierre Gasly, after that pretty horrific start, maybe the hard compound tyre isn't the tyre to start a race on. He now finds himself battling to try and get himself back inside the top 10, but to do so, he has to overtake one of the most experienced drivers in the field, Nico Hulkenberg, and he will actually get the move done around the outside into the braking zone, and that is him now up into P10 to claim the final points paying position here. And behind Oscar Piastri, though, he's had a bit of a mare, and he is still in P12 trying to get himself into the points, so his Sunday is definitely looking very, very tough for the Australian. Up into P5 now, it is George Russell trying to get Charles Leclerc to steal the P5 away from him. They'll go side by side, and is he going to be able to make the move down the inside? He'll have to use a very late braking here, and he should be able to get the move done here. He squeezes Leclerc out. You can see a little wiggle there on the steering wheel just to make sure that he didn't try and come back at him. On board with ourselves, though, we're going to get our first race objective here. It's lap 6 of the Grand Prix of 35, and we need to try and stay ahead of Lando Norris. So is this going to be a bit of a rivalry just for this Grand Prix that we have to stay ahead of Lando? And he's currently sitting 3/10 behind us, but we can surely make this a bigger gap and harder for Lando to try and get past us as we now get past Charles Leclerc around the outside into turn 1, and we'll, for good measure, have the DRS to help defend going into the next corner to make sure he can't come back at us. And that is us now up into P6 and puts a car between us and our rival Lando Norris in this Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri, he's finally trying to make a move here to get himself up inside the top 10. He'll have the DRS down this second little straight sort of bit before the next corner, and he'll get himself now finally into the points paying position and dispatches Pierre Gasly in the Alpine, and finds himself now trying to chase down Kimi Antonelli, who's in P9 in the Mercedes. And for us, though, we're now kind of stuck behind George Russell. We can't really break the 7 to 8/10 barrier behind him, so we're going to have to try and push through all this dirty air and risk overheating our tyres and causing a bit extra tyre wear. But we do pass our objective to keep Lando Norris behind us, which is a positive to come out of this Grand Prix so far. Speaking of Lando Norris, he is looking now to try and get himself past Charles Leclerc. So Leclerc starting to struggle a little bit on his tyres. The Ferrari maybe not looking so good around the Hungaroring with its tyres and tyre life, but Leclerc's not going to let this go down too easy. He'll stay to the inside to make Lando go all the way around the outside. Is this position going to be able to get kept? And it will. Lando Norris will find himself now up in P7 to try and chase down ourselves. The other McLaren, Oscar Piastri, he does manage to chase down Kimi Antonelli, and he looks to the inside now at turn 1. Is this going to be a change for position? Kimi Antonelli gets a very good exit, though, but he will maintain position, and this is going to surely get very annoying for Oscar Piastri. He's still in some sort of championship battle here. I know Max Verstappen is pulling away in this championship. He's just been very, very consistent so far this season, but mathematically, Oscar Piastri sitting down in P5 could still be in a hunt, though, even though I'm kind of disregarding myself out of championship contention way ahead of him. Oscar Piastri in the McLaren, which has been consistently a much better car, I'm sure is probably looking to try and start getting more consistent results to get himself back into a championship contention. Although we do get our next objective of the Grand Prix, which is to try and keep the engine temperatures down, which is a bit surprising because I've been in relatively clean air. I mean, I've been stuck behind George Russell for a few laps now, and that's always been within a second. But down the straight, I have been pulling out just a little bit just to try and keep engine temps down a tad now, especially I've got the objective to try and do that. So a very interesting one there to keep the engine temps down. But Max Verstappen, he's the first one of the top three. He's going to pull into the lane now, and I'm going to imagine the entire field's going to be on a one stop here. I don't see, with how hard it is to overtake, a two stopper being viable around this circuit. He'll go onto the hard compound tyre, so pretty much confirming he is on a one stopper. We are also now inside the pit lane, and we will pull it in to the pit box, and it's up to the boys and girls of Apex GP to now pull off a good pit stop for us. It is a good stop, 2.4 seconds onto the hard tyres, and that is our one stop done. And so what can we do on these hard compound tyres? Ideally, I'd like to get past George Russell, since he kind of feels like a bit of a bottleneck, but he's very quick in the second sector, but he kind of has me covered down the straights in the first and the third sector. Yuki Tsunoda, the race leader, finds himself now inside the pit lane. But with Max Verstappen pitting that lap earlier, is there any benefit to an undercut here? Has a Red Bull kind of, through the strategy, given Max Verstappen an opportunity here to try and get a race win to extend his championship lead over his rivals Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton? Hamilton finds himself in the pit box directly behind Yuki Tsunoda right now. Our teammate Sonny Hayes, he's also in the lane, so he's sacrificing his P3 at the moment, which it kind of was taken from Verstappen as he came through the lane and back on board with ourselves. So we pass our objective, and you can see that there is 100% a benefit to the undercut, because we've now jumped our teammate who was initially P4. So we're currently still sitting P6 where we were when we came into the lane. There's still a couple of people yet to make a pit stop, one of them being Pierre Gasly here. And so once Gasly comes into the lane for his pit stop, he will fall out of the top 10, I would believe, and they'll promote us now up into P5. So by pitting that on the first lap that everyone else was pitting on as well, so we've essentially jumped quite a few people here in at the pit stop phase. Lando Norris, though, he is now looking to attack our teammate and try and take away that P7. This could have been, by the looks of it, our best combined finish as a team. Hayes is generally, if I've been at the front, Hayes has generally found himself just outside of the points or just inside the points. We're yet to have like a double top 5 sort of finish, which I'm really hoping we can get done today. But even though I keep a good eye inside the top 10, all the point scoring finishes, there is definitely plenty of battles back further down the field, as we can see here between Liam Lawson and Gabriel Bortoleto. They're continuing on into lap 20 now. They're both on the hard compound tyres, and there is smoke coming out the back of Liam Lawson, and he's going to very swiftly move it off the racetrack. And I wonder if this is going to cause any sort of VSC, and it will not cause a VSC or a full course safety car, but we'll ignore that just for now, because we're getting ourselves past George Russell. Bit of contact at the apex as I tried to give him a bit of a squeeze up onto the curb to try and see if we couldn't ruin his exit, but we'll take the position away from George Russell and do a bit of an order check here now, and as things start coming down with all the pit stop phase now completed. Max Verstappen leads a Red Bull 1-2 ahead of his teammate Yuki Tsunoda. Hamilton finds himself on the podium for Ferrari. Ourselves now into P4 ahead of George Russell. Our teammate Hayes is in 6th position ahead of Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, Nico Hülkenberg rounds out the points. Then it's Kimi Antonelli, Fernando Alonso, Pierre Gasly, and Isaac Hadjar, the only racing ball left in this race. The two Williams of Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz, and Lance Stroll, Gabriel Bortoleto, Esteban Ocon, Jack Doohan, and Oliver Behrman rounds out the field at the moment. Liam Lawson is the only non-finisher as it stands in today's Grand Prix. Back to Lando Norris, though. He is looking to try and see if he can't get himself back ahead of our teammate. He tried a couple of laps ago, and he couldn't make the move stick. This time around, is he going to be able to do it? Our teammate has a very good exit, but Norris, he'll have the DRS heading into this next corner, and he'll have to go around the long way of our very experienced teammate, Sonny Hayes, and he will get the move completed and get himself now up into P6 and give him a shot to try and chase down George Russell, who we've actually dropped out of our DRS range after getting that move done. So he was definitely a bit slower than us, and that gap has now opened up to 2 seconds, as it's now Charles Leclerc's turn to try and get himself past our teammate. So hopefully our teammate can actually stay within the points. He'll fall to P8 if he can't defend this position, and it looks like he won't. Charles Leclerc will get the position, but he's now got 9 seconds to Oscar Piastri behind. So hopefully in the last 10 or so laps of this Grand Prix, he can try and maintain that P8 position as we get our next objective, and it's to set a fast lap time. So is Mark trying to tell us that our podium is on here? Is a Yuki Tsunoda holding up Lewis Hamilton? Because the gap's opened up to 3 seconds now between him and Max Verstappen, as Antonelli's now trying to get himself back inside the points here. Early on in the Grand Prix, he did have a battle with Nico Hülkenberg to try and get himself inside the points, and once again, to get himself back inside the points, battling Nico Hülkenberg, and he will get that position to get himself up into P10. We do complete the fast lap time, and you can see there we've also gained about 0.2 of a second to Lewis Hamilton. So the pace is definitely there, but is there enough laps to try and make a move for the podium places here in Hungary, as there was contact between Lando Norris and George Russell as they came through the braking zone of turn 1, but that is Norris now up into 5th position, and he's going to try and hunt us down. Lando Norris has seemed to have very, very good pace around here today. He just keeps getting stuck behind slightly slower cars, and he's struggling to make his way through the field, as now Charles Leclerc is also trying to get himself past George Russell. So just like our teammate, after this pit stop phase, they haven't been looking too good on the hard compound tyres, and so maybe the Mercedes isn't one that generally likes these sort of conditions. We'll have to wait and see into future races, but this is going to be a brilliant battle as Russell sends it back up the inside of Charles Leclerc. And is he going to be able to maintain position after getting that move? They'll go through here side by side, which is usually a place you wouldn't go side by side, and he does maintain position. So George Russell using every bit of experience that he's got to try and defend this 6th position from the Ferrari here. But this time the Ferrari is going to go to the inside. Charles Leclerc, is he going to be able to get the exit that he needs? He'll open up the DRS wing, and is he going to be able to hang it around the outside? Right behind though, our teammate has caught up back to the both of them. He was dispatched by the both of these guys not too long ago, and because of their battling, they've lost so much time. He's caught back up to them. Is he going to be able to make a pass back on George Russell? On board with ourselves though, we are absolutely in like a... it's hard to explain. I'm just currently in a state of mind while driving that I'm completely zoned out. Our engineer's not talking to us. He knows that we're currently just absolutely locked in, and you can see that we absolutely are, because we gained so much on Lewis Hamilton, and I reckon it was more, the more that I could see them in front of me, the more I was able just to reel them in, as the gap just continues to plummet. It's now 1.5 seconds to Hamilton. We're nearly within their DRS range with only a few laps to go in this Grand Prix, but Lando Norris 2.3 behind us. That gap has not changed, so Norris has also been following us down through the laps, and he's also reeling in these two here as they battle it on through into turn 1, and this is only going to help me out try and get the DRS for the next lap. Is Lewis Hamilton going to be able to get himself up into P2? No, he can't. He's not going to be able to spoil the Red Bull party just yet. It remains a Red Bull 1-2 here in the Grand Prix. On to lap 34 now. Only 2 laps to go. A very aggressive swing to the outside from Lewis Hamilton. Is he going to be able to take P2 away? At this time, you can see, though, we are right there. We're right there behind the two battling it out here in Hungary. Is Hamilton now to the inside going to be able to get that P2? It looks very good, but just as George Russell did Tsunoda, he'll keep his nose in it, and they'll go up the hill now, side by side. We're desperately trying to find our way through on at least one of these guys and see if we can't catch them napping a little bit while they're focused on each other. We go to the outside of Hamilton, but he gives us the squeeze, and we can't quite get the move done there just yet, but look who's joined the party now. Lando Norris. He's in this as well. It's a 4-way scrap for second position here in the Grand Prix. Our tyre wear indicator has now turned orange. And Hamilton also facing tyre wear. He gets it all sideways on the exit of the chicane. But there's no space to get through in this second sector. I kind of have to hopefully try and stay with him. But the tyre wear is just so bad. The car just feels like it's flat siding everywhere. All around the circuit. We go very deep under the brakes, and we try and close up, but unfortunately he's just going to get the better exit on us, and I don't think we're going to be able to send a dive on him to take away his podium. Max Verstappen will cross the line to take another victory this season here in Hungary, and for ourselves, I don't think we're going to be able to get it. Tsunoda will hold on to second. Hamilton will claim the last spot on the podium, and we'll just keep 4th position. Wow, what intense last couple of laps there. Unfortunately, falling just short of a back-to-back podium.
And in the end, there was no Verstappen. Max Verstappen, he takes victory.
And you can really tell that they're taking this one step at a time, one race at a time, and getting the points on the board when it matters. That's what it's going to take, consistency and the bigger picture.
Well, it's been a long wait for many of our drivers, but the wait is always worth it. Bring them out to the awaiting crowd. It's time for our podium celebrations. One of the all-time greats celebrates yet again. It's another podium, it's another top step for Max Verstappen.
So Max Verstappen has won the Hungarian Grand Prix. Yuki Tsunoda will cross the line, and he's going to take the Red Bull 1-2 that they haven't had in quite some time. And Hamilton will also get himself another podium in the Ferrari. And it was a hard fight to the end. 4 drivers, 4 different constructors all the way to the end, battling it out for that second position on the podium. And Hamilton had that moment out of the chicane. But yeah, there just wasn't enough of a run to try and get him into the next corner. The rest of the top 10, myself ended up P4, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, George Russell, our teammate Sonny Hayes ended up in P8, so he did hold on from Oscar Piastri and Kimi Antonelli, and Lawson was the only non-finisher after suffering from that engine failure. Max Verstappen extends his championship lead to 93 points to Lando Norris. Lewis Hamilton is in third, 152 points behind. Myself in fourth, 5 points behind Lewis. And our teammate Sonny Hayes is in ninth, 71 points behind Charles Leclerc. Red Bull, they lead the Constructors' Championship by 101 points to McLaren. It is then Ferrari in third, 171 points behind Apex GP. We find ourselves in fourth, 76 points behind Ferrari. And our driver ratings, everything has gained points except for our focus, which is a little bit surprising. I would have thought that with a good recovery driver around a difficult circuit to overtake on, it would have gone up, but we still have an overall level 85. And as expected, after declining that meeting, we have jumped to 58% driver recognition against our teammates. And for the next episode, we will actually go through the mid-season break before continuing on with the second half of the season, starting with the Dutch Grand Prix. So if you did enjoy this episode, please make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you when we hit the track in Zandvoort.